The emperor's palace was a place of golden halls, sparkling lights and perfect order. Everything there was measured and planned, from the height of the ceilings to the smallest jewel in the crown. The people in the palace spoke in careful tones and everyone knew their place. Among them lived the emperor's daughter, Elara. She was kind, gentle and clever, but she did not fit the perfect image the emperor wanted. She was larger than most princesses, her face round and soft, her hands strong and capable. The courtiers whispered behind her back, and the servants sometimes avoided her. The emperor, proud and stern, often frowned at her, seeing only what she was not, instead of what she could be. One morning the emperor called his council together. His face was sharp, his voice cold. "We have a problem," he said. "The humans on the outer outpost are weak, slow and foolish. They cannot be trusted with anything important. They need to be reminded of their place. Send them a gift. Something to show our superiority." The council nodded quickly, afraid to disagree. "What will you send, your majesty?" one minister asked. The emperor's lips curved into a small, cruel smile. "My daughter," he said simply. "Elara will go to them. They will see her and laugh. It will be amusing. It will teach them humility." Elara heard the command before she could speak. She felt a cold fear settle in her chest. She had always known she was different from the other princesses, but she had never been sent away as a joke. Her mother looked at her with sorrow, and her father's eyes showed no warmth at all. The palace prepared her ship in silence. The day of departure arrived. Elara stepped onto the platform where the human ship waited. Soldiers followed her, holding her fine robes and heavy cloak. She looked down at the people around her, trying to imagine a life among strangers, far from the golden halls she had always known. The humans who would receive her were said to be simple, hardworking, and ignorant of galactic politics. They were not supposed to matter, not supposed to impress anyone. The emperor's plan was clear: humiliate them by giving them someone they would not value. The human ship was small but sturdy. Its engines hummed quietly, unlike the loud, showy power of the imperial vessels. Elara stepped inside and was greeted by a man with grease-stained hands and a calm, steady look. He introduced himself as Joran, the mechanic who ran the outpost. He did not bow low or speak in grand tones. He simply said, "Welcome aboard. I hear we have a new guest." His voice was gentle and his eyes were kind. Elara stiffened. She expected laughter, mockery, or shock. Instead, Joran smiled without judgment. He offered her a seat and some food. It was simple, nothing like the golden feasts of the palace, but it was enough. The warmth in the small human gestures surprised her. No one here seemed to care about her size, her royal status, or her past. They treated her like a person, not a joke. The journey to the outpost was long. Elara spent the time looking out the window, watching stars streak by. She remembered her father's words and felt a flicker of anger. He thought she would embarrass the humans. He thought they would see her as weak. But as she watched the stars, she wondered, what if they did not care about his judgments at all? What if they saw her for herself, not for what she lacked? When the ship finally landed, Elara saw the outpost. It was small, practical, and bustling with activity. Humans moved quickly, fixing machines, checking systems, and talking quietly among themselves. No one stared at her, no one whispered. Joran led her through the outpost, introducing her to the workers. She noticed how focused they were, how they worked together to keep everything running. Despite their simplicity, there was a sense of strength here, a quiet confidence that did not need crowns or jewels. Elara began to feel something she had never felt in the palace: belonging. Even though she was far from home, even though she was sent as a joke, the humans treated her as part of their world. She could help, she could learn, she could be useful. For the first time, she did not feel ashamed of herself. She felt capable. That night, as she lay in the small quarters the humans provided, she thought about her father. He believed he was sending her to fail. He believed the humans would mock her. But the stars outside her window reminded her that the universe was larger than the Emperor's golden halls. Maybe this outpost, these humans, could see value where her own family could not. And maybe, just maybe, she could prove that worth, not to the Emperor but to herself. In the quiet of the human outpost, Elara closed her eyes and smiled. The journey she had dreaded was only the beginning. She was far from home, but for the first time she did not feel small. She felt ready. Elara woke to the soft hum of the outpost's machines. The sun outside was faint, filtered through the protective dome, but it brought warmth she had never felt in the palace. She dressed quickly in the simple clothes the humans had provided. They were rough compared to her silks, but they were comfortable. She walked into the main hall where humans moved with purpose, repairing engines, checking panels, and adjusting equipment. Joran was there, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Good morning," he said. His voice was calm, steady, and there was no hint of mockery. "Ready to see what we do here?" Elara nodded, feeling a mix of curiosity and nervousness. She had never been among people who worked with their hands, people who did not care about crowns or titles. The humans showed her how the outpost functioned. Machines hummed, lights flickered, and panels glowed with soft green signals. Each human had a task, and each task mattered. If one thing failed, the whole outpost could be in trouble. She tried to help at first with small things. Joran guided her carefully, explaining how to tighten bolts, check energy conduits, and monitor system levels. At first she fumbled. Her fingers were used to holding quills, signing papers, and adjusting delicate jewelry. But humans worked with patience. They did not criticize her. They repeated instructions gently and encouraged her. For the first time, Elara felt the freedom to learn without fear of failure. Days passed and she grew more confident. She discovered that she had an unusual skill. She could see patterns in machines that others missed. Small irregularities, tiny shifts in energy flow, things that could signal a problem. When she pointed them out, the humans listened. Joran nodded, impressed. "You have a good eye," he said. Not many noticed that. The humans began to trust her. They gave her small responsibilities like monitoring life support systems or helping repair a damaged sensor. She worked side by side with them, learning the language of machines, understanding the rhythm of the outpost. She realized that their strength was not in titles or armies, but in cooperation, patience, and intelligence. Elara also learned about their lives. Humans joked quietly, shared stories of homeworlds, and talked about families and dreams. They did not care about the Emperor, the Galactic Empire, or the grandeur of royal halls. They cared about solving problems, taking care of each other, and making things work. Their world was simple but strong. She felt a strange happiness being part of it. One evening, while the humans rested, a small emergency occurred. A minor power fluctuation caused lights to flicker and machines to stutter. The humans immediately began checking panels, following procedures. Elara noticed something unusual. A conduit was misaligned, something subtle that no one else had seen. She pointed it out. Joran examined it and smiled. "Good catch," he said. "If you hadn't noticed, we might have had bigger problems tomorrow." Elara felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she realized she could be useful. Not because she was a princess, not because of her father's wealth or status, but because she had skills and insight. The humans did not care about her size or her past. They only cared that she helped. Over time, Elara began to understand the rhythm of human life. They worked hard, but they laughed often. They shared meals, told stories, and helped one another without expectation. She felt included, valued, and respected. These were things she had never felt in the palace. There she had been watched, judged, and compared to ideals she could never reach. Here she was simply herself. Joran noticed her growth and treated her as an equal. "You're learning fast," he said one day. "Don't worry about what the Emperor thinks. He sent you here as a joke. But here you're part of something real." Elara smiled. She realized he was right. The Emperor had sent her to embarrass humans, but humans had shown her a kind of respect she had never known. They valued effort, intelligence, and heart. Her father's mockery meant nothing here. She had found people who saw her for who she was, not who she was supposed to be. Night came and the stars shone beyond the dome. Elara looked up, thinking about the journey she had taken. She had left the palace expecting shame, but instead she had found strength. Strength not in jewels or titles but in work, friendship, and understanding. The humans had shown her that being different was not a weakness. It was a gift. Elara lay in her small quarters, thinking about the days ahead. She would continue to learn, to help, to grow. She was no longer just the Emperor's daughter. She was a part of the human outpost, a member of a team that trusted her. And for the first time she felt proud, not of her birthright but of herself. In the quiet of the night, Elara made a silent promise. She would not let the Emperor's judgment define her. She would prove that she was capable, not for him, but for the humans who had welcomed her, for the work she could do, and for the life she could live. She was ready to face whatever came next, with courage, skill, and heart. The outpost had always been a place of order, routine, and quiet work. Machines hummed day and night, systems glowed softly, and humans moved with purpose. Elara had grown comfortable here. She knew the routines, understood the systems, and felt a part of the human team. But one morning, a sharp alarm echoed through the halls. Lights flickered, panels blinked red, and a low rumble shook the outpost. Joran's voice cut through the alarm. "Everyone check your stations. Something is wrong with the main energy conduit." Humans hurried to their tasks, their movements precise and fast. Elara followed, her heart pounding. She watched as Joran worked on the central panel, tools in hand, trying to stabilize the energy flow. Sparks flew from a console and the lights dimmed even more. The humans worked together, but the problem was more serious than any of them expected. Elara stepped closer, examining the panels. She noticed something that the others did not. A small wire had been damaged, hidden behind a protective cover. It was a tiny thing, almost invisible, but it was enough to cause the system to fail. She hesitated for a moment, then spoke up. Joran, the problem isn't just here, she said, pointing to the wire. It's behind this panel. If we fix it, the system will stabilize. Joran looked at her, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, Elara said. I've been watching the patterns. The energy is being disrupted here first, then spreading. If we don't fix it, the entire outpost could lose power. The humans paused, studying her suggestion. They had never seen her act like this before. She was usually quiet, learning, helping where she could. But now she was leading, noticing details others missed. Slowly Joran nodded. All right. Let's check it out. Elara guided him to the panel. She explained how the wire was bent and partially detached. Joran carefully repaired it while the other humans supported him, holding tools, running diagnostics, and monitoring energy levels. Minutes felt like hours. Every second counted. Finally, the main system began to stabilize. Lights brightened, panels returned to normal, and the low hum of the engines resumed. The outpost was safe again. The humans exchanged looks of relief and admiration. They had faced many problems, but this time, it had been a close call. Joran turned to Elara, a broad smile on his face. You saved us, he said simply. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't seen that wire. Elara felt her cheeks warm. She had never been praised like this in the palace. There, her father focused only on what she lacked. Here, humans recognized her skills, her insight, her value. For the first time, she truly felt proud of herself. The humans around her nodded and murmured thanks. Some patted her shoulder, others smiled. She realized that her place here was not as a princess, not as a gift or a joke, but as a part of the team. Her contributions mattered. She was respected. She was seen. Over the next few days, Elara continued to help with the outpost's work. She monitored energy systems, repaired smaller machines, and assisted the humans wherever she could. Each task reminded her that strength was not about titles or appearances, it was about action, focus, and care. She had skills that were useful, and humans valued them. At night, she often sat with Joran and the other workers, sharing meals and talking quietly. They asked about her life in the palace, and she spoke without fear. They never laughed, never judged. Instead, they listened, curious and kind. The walls she had built around herself began to crumble. She realized that she had been wrong to think that her worth depended on her father's approval. Her worth came from herself and from what she could do. One evening, Joran looked at her thoughtfully. You know, he said, you've done more for this outpost than anyone expected. You've got a talent most people don't even notice in themselves. Elara smiled softly. I just try to see things, she said. I guess humans look differently at problems. You notice what matters even if it's small. That's true, Joran said. But it's also why we value you. You help, you learn, and you act. That's real strength. Elara felt a deep sense of belonging. She had been sent as a joke, expected to embarrass the humans. Instead, she had proven herself, not through royal blood or obedience, but through insight, courage, and action. She understood now that humans did not care about status or appearance. They cared about heart, effort, and the ability to face challenges. The stars outside the outpost shone bright and steady. Elara looked at them and felt a new determination. She would continue to learn, to help, and to grow. She had found a place where she could shine, and no one could take that away. For the first time in her life, Elara understood what true strength meant. It was not about fitting in or being perfect. It was about seeing what others cannot, acting when it matters, and standing quietly, confidently in the face of challenge. She had found that strength within herself, and the humans around her had shown her that it was real, valuable, and recognized. The outpost hummed peacefully now, safe and strong, and Elara felt a quiet pride. She was no longer a joke. She was someone who mattered. And she knew that this was only the beginning of what she could become. News traveled slowly at first. The Emperor's messengers returned from the outer human outpost with strange reports. They spoke of the daughter he had sent as a joke. They said she had not been laughed at or mocked. They said she had helped the humans, noticed problems, and even saved the outpost from disaster. The Emperor sat in his golden hall, frowning at the reports. He could not believe what he was hearing. "Impossible," he muttered. "I sent her to humiliate them and now they praise her?" His advisors shuffled uneasily, careful not to speak too loudly. "She is effective, Your Majesty," one minister said carefully. "The humans respect her. They rely on her skills." The Emperor slammed a fist on the table. That was not the plan. She was supposed to fail. She was supposed to embarrass them. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. The grandeur of the palace felt cold and empty compared to the simple strength of the humans he had underestimated. Meanwhile, on the outpost, Elara continued her work as usual. She checked energy conduits, repaired small machines, and assisted Joran wherever he needed her. The humans valued her advice, followed her observations, and treated her as part of their team. She had become one of them. She did not boast or demand recognition, but quietly, steadily she made a difference. One day the human outpost received an urgent transmission from the Emperor himself. The golden message carried authority and command. It ordered her immediate return to the palace. Her father demanded she leave at once and return to her role as a princess, not as a member of the outpost. Elara held the message in her hands, reading it carefully. She thought of the humans who had welcomed her, taught her, and trusted her. She thought of Joran, who had guided her without judgment, and the small victories she had experienced here. For the first time she realized something important. She did not belong to her father, not in the way he believed. Joran saw the worry in her eyes. "You don't have to go," he said gently. "This is your choice. You can return if you want, but no one here will force you." Elara nodded slowly. I need to think," she said. She walked to the observation deck, looking at the stars beyond the dome. She remembered the palace, the halls of gold, the whispers and judgment. And she remembered the outpost, the warmth, the trust, the respect. The choice was clear in her heart. When she returned to Joran, she handed him the Emperor's message. "I'm not going back," she said firmly. "I won't be a symbol for him. I won't let him control my life. I belong here, with people who see me for what I can do, not what I am supposed to be." Joran smiled, his eyes full of quiet approval. "Then you are where you are meant to be," he said. Back in the palace, the Emperor seethed. He could not understand how his plan had failed so completely. The humans had ignored his authority, praised his daughter, and found value in her where he had seen only failure. The courtiers whispered, some daring to question his judgment. The Emperor, proud and stubborn, realized that the humans were not like his empire. They did not care about titles, appearances, or royal orders. They cared about action, skill, and heart. The realization was uncomfortable but unavoidable. His daughter, sent as a joke, had grown stronger and wiser than he had imagined. She had earned respect without grandeur, without status, without obedience to his whims. She had become a symbol not of shame, but of something he had never understood: human resilience. Meanwhile, Elara walked among the humans, helping repair a communication array. A young technician asked her for advice, and she guided him patiently. She smiled as he successfully completed the task, realizing she had taught someone to solve problems, to trust their own skill. Her heart swelled with quiet pride. She had made a real difference here, in a place far from the palace, far from judgment, far from cruelty. She thought of her father again. The Emperor would never understand what she had found here, the lessons she had learned, or the strength she had discovered within herself. But she no longer needed his approval. The humans had given her something the palace never could: respect, trust, and the chance to be herself. That night, as the stars shone bright beyond the dome, Elara sat quietly, reflecting on the journey so far. She had arrived expecting humiliation, fear, and failure. Instead, she had found purpose, friendship, and strength. She had discovered that true power did not come from wealth, status, or fear. It came from helping, learning, and acting when it mattered. The Emperor's command might still arrive, but Elara knew what she would do. She would not return to a place that measured her worth by appearances. She would stay here, among people who valued her for her skills and her heart. And in doing so, she had become something her father could never understand: a human in spirit, proud and capable, stronger than any title or crown could make her. Elara's life had changed, and the Emperor, far away in his golden hall, finally understood that some lessons could not be taught with orders, only with experience. The human way was different, and in that difference there was a quiet, unstoppable power. Elara walked through the outpost, feeling the quiet hum of machinery and the soft chatter of humans. Every corner of this place held purpose and life. She thought of how far she had come since the day she arrived, sent as a joke by her father, the Emperor. She had expected mockery, fear, and loneliness. Instead, she had found respect, friendship, and her own strength. The Emperor's command still hung in the air, a golden message waiting for her reply. He demanded her immediate return, insisting she resume her place as a princess in the palace. But the outpost had shown her a different life, one filled with real work, real connections, and real trust. For the first time she realized that she had a choice her father could not control. Joran approached, carrying a small toolbox. He had always been patient with her, guiding her without judgment, teaching her to see the patterns in machines and the strength in herself. The Emperor's message came, he said softly. What will you do? Elara took a deep breath. I will stay, she said. Her voice was calm, steady. I won't go back to a place that values titles over people, appearances over ability. I belong here with those who see me for who I am. Joran smiled. Then you're making the right choice. He handed her a wrench, and together they checked a failing conduit, fixing it before it could cause a larger problem. The work was quiet, but it mattered. The humans around them nodded in respect, their trust in her clear. She was no longer a visitor, no longer a gift or a joke. She was part of the team. When the Emperor received her reply, he was furious. The courtiers whispered, some afraid to speak at all. Impossible, he said. She is my daughter. She must obey. But the Emperor could not force her. She had learned what the humans had taught her. Strength came not from fear or command, but from choice and action. Her refusal was quiet, firm, and undeniable. She had grown beyond the golden halls, beyond the judgment, beyond the expectation of a man who valued only appearance. Word of her decision spread slowly through the empire. Some were shocked. Others were curious. The humans respected her choice, and in turn she had become a symbol of what humanity could do. She had proven that being sent as a joke could not destroy someone with heart, intelligence, and courage. Elara's days settled into a rhythm she loved. She rose with the outpost, worked alongside Joran and the others, repaired machines, monitored systems, and taught new humans what she had learned. She laughed with them, shared meals, and celebrated small victories. Each day she grew more confident, more capable, and more certain that she had chosen the right path. One morning, a group of human engineers approached her. We've been having trouble with the new navigation array, one said. Could you help us? Elara smiled. Of course, she replied. Together they examined the system. She guided them through adjustments, spotting flaws and suggesting fixes. When the system hummed smoothly, they cheered, clapping her on the back. She realized that her value was not measured in jewels or crowns, but in action, insight, and care. At night, she often stood outside the dome, gazing at the stars. She thought of her father, the palace, and the golden halls she had left behind. He had sent her to be a joke, to embarrass humans, and yet she had become something greater. She had found a place where she was respected, where she mattered, and where she could shape her own life. The Emperor's plan had failed, not because she had rebelled in anger, but because she had embraced her own strength and the humanity she had discovered. Joran joined her one evening, looking at the stars beside her. You've changed things, he said quietly. Not just here but maybe even in the Empire. They can't ignore what you've done. Elara nodded. I didn't do it to change them. I did it to be myself. But maybe showing them what humans value will make them see things differently. And perhaps it did. The Emperor, far away in his golden palace, began to understand something he could never fully control. Humans were not defined by fear, by judgment, or by mockery. They were defined by action, by heart, and by courage. His daughter, sent as a joke, had proven this more clearly than anyone could have imagined. The outpost thrived. Elara thrived. Humans and their machines worked together, facing challenges, solving problems, and celebrating small victories. She had become a bridge between worlds, a living example of what humans could do when they valued skill, insight, and kindness over rank and appearance. Elara smiled, feeling the quiet strength within her. She had chosen her own path, embraced her own abilities, and discovered a power the Emperor could never take away. She was no longer a joke, no longer the unwanted daughter. She was a human, proud, capable, and strong. And in that choice she had changed everything.